Good afternoon, and welcome to our continuing series, Interviews with Disciples and Devotees. Today again, we are with our dear friend, Kittu Reddy. Namaste, Kittu. And we're at The Ideal of Human Unity, Chapter 16, with a brief review of 15.
14, one of the important paragraphs.
Good.
I think we have mentioned this paragraph before, but the paragraph starts with forces they take their first place in actual effectuation. This is a paragraph which is certainly very true in politics, but I think it is true in all of life. Because politics really is an extension of human life in a certain sense. Because ultimately, every community has to have a power center, and there can be differences and clashes with that power center, and there can be ambitions to be part of that power center. So, this is very important. So, forces take the first place in actual effectuation. Moral principles, reason, justice, only so far as forces can be compelled or persuaded to admit them, or as more often happens, use them as subservient aids or inspiring battle cries, a camouflage for their own interests. Now, if you look at Indian politics, that is exactly the situation today. One senior politician has left Narendra Modi. They are planning to bring a no confidence motion against the government, which they know they are certain to lose. But they want to create an atmosphere. But now the whole question is whether the atmosphere, if they bring this thing, will go in their favor or go against them. And now, as a stunt, in order to get, I suppose, some sympathy from the Muslims, they are planning to impeach the Chief Justice of India for absolutely no reason that they have been able to give. So 3 days back they said we are definitely going to impeach. Today before coming, for 5 minutes I saw the TV. The Congress has backtracked already. Because when you impeach the CJI without giving any substantial reason, trying to put moral pressure on him so that he doesn't give a verdict which will favor the Hindus, right? It might boomerang. So you see, all their calculation is based neither on moral force or justice or anything of the kind. It is simply the mood of the country, and that depends on the forces. And the more the Hindus are getting united, the more they have to be very cautious in taking a very pro-Muslim stand. So now there is a very strong movement to get the Hindu groups united. Right? So ideas sometimes leap out as armed forces and break their way through the hedge of unideal powers. Sometimes they reverse the position and make interests their subordinate helpers, a fuel for their own blaze. Sometimes they conquer by martyrdom. But ordinarily they have to work not only by a half-covered pressure, but by accommodation to powerful forces, or must even bribe and cajole them, or work through and behind them. See, yesterday somebody sent me, my niece sent me an interview in P Gurus. There is one group called P Gurus, I think. And there a man called Nalapat, who is very sympathetic to Narendra Modi, his one complaint is why no FIR has been filed even after 4 years against Sonia Gandhi, against Rahul Gandhi, against all those who have. Now, it is very clear that Narendra Modi is not with them. But he has to make his political calculations. Now, if they get sympathy as a result of this, that might turn against him. If the country feels that on the whole, at last, he has acted, right? So, Nalapal has demanded that he should do these three things. Get better ministers, many of them are not good enough. Remove the bureaucrats who are obstructing, because many of the bureaucrats have old contacts, right? So they will delay or, right? Easier said than done. Because he has to calculate the forces that are at play, right? So he might agree with all that Nalapat says. But then ultimately he has to come back for the next election, no?
If we could make just an aside for a moment, could you talk a bit about why Mother said no politics in the ashram?
See, it might sound strange that Aurobindo was himself in politics and in the very thick of politics for 4 years. And in fact, his first love, as he said, was poetry and politics. But in the ashram, there is no politics. Now, there can be two types of politics. In any organization, you can remove the word the ashram. There can be internal politics. I want to become the authority. I want to become the chief. The present chief is not a good person or anything, not following the ideals. That is internal politics. That Mother could never stop. But external politics means interacting with outside forces which can affect and influence the ashram itself. And that Mother was absolutely clear that that should not be done. Right? Internal politics, you have to go beyond your lower nature, and you must always try to be faithful to Mother and Aurobindo and not concern yourself about power. But in collective life it is not very easy, because somebody takes a decision which affects your working, and that can you can make a demand that the authority has to be changed, right? So this is the problem that is taking place to a great extent here, because when the Mother was there, unquestionable submission. But today there is no unquestionable submission to anybody, right? They respect some parts, they are very critical of some parts. They are not bothered about Anmol and me and you, because we have no power. But if we had power, then there will be problems. Because I can guarantee you that everybody will not agree with what the man in power says. So there it is forces that take place. Should I raise up and create a problem? I mean, raise the issues, right? And then if you raise the issues and find that you are not getting any support, then you make a fool of yourself. So you have to wait to see that the atmosphere changes. Atmosphere means that the forces have now come in your favor.
Similar to Modi.
Huh?
Similar to what Modi has to
Yes,
decide.
exactly.
Yes.
Now, before every decision that he takes, it has a huge impact on the country. He has to calculate and see whether he will get the general support of the people. Because he is in politics, he wants to come back to power, right? And then he can continue what he is doing. So this gentleman, Nalapad, has said, he should not think I'll do it in the 6th year or 7th year or 8th year. What he knows is right, he should do in the 4th year or 3rd year. But I know this is right, but I know that this will not be conducive to my coming back to power. So that is where forces have to play. And there your judgment is very important, right? And now that in India a third front is coming up because they have realized that the Congress is a zero everywhere, right? And after the Karnataka elections, which is on 12th of May, we will get a clear indication of where the wind is blowing. If the wind is blowing in favor of BJP, then the third front will bound to come up. If Congress does well there, or JDS, then again another type of organization will take place. So this is all purely based on the ground situation, which is based on the forces. So you see now, talking politics, in Karnataka there is a community called the Lingayat community, which has been usually dominant and which constitutes about 20% of the population. Now the Chief Minister has played a game. He has given them a minority status, which means that they get certain benefits simply because they are minorities. Now the BJP's original position was that you are dividing the country. They are all Hindus, don't make them minorities and majority. But then electorally, the head of the Lingayat community has supported the Chief Minister. So now Amit Shah is thinking, what should I do? If I stand for unity, I will lose my election. Or I might lose the election. If I play this game, then I am not moving in the ultimately right direction. So this is what I am trying to say, that everything depends on forces. And those who know how to play this game, well,
continue in this line. I was speaking with a friend the other day, and she said that because of reparations, whatever you want to call it,
what preparations?
Reparations to people who have been lower caste. Now the passing grade in schools is 35%. 35%.
See, now I'll give you arguments on both sides. Reservation goes against merit.
Yes.
Which should be the basis for any post anywhere. You must have merit to be able to sit in that post. But then there is a historical background. And that historical background is that for almost 1,000 years or even more, we have treated the lower castes, whom we have called as Dalits, etc., in a most cruel and wrong way. The result is that they have been all the time suppressed, deprived, and at a very low level. Now, in one generation, it is not possible to raise them up unless you give them some kind of preference, right? So, but it is very important that an engineering degree should not be given with 35% marks, because then this building will collapse, right? But might be he can be a peon, or might be he can be given some work where there is no real skill demanded, right? So it is a balancing act that they have to do. And it is a political act also. Because all these years, when India became free and in 1950, they said that after 25 years we'll remove all reservations. Indira Gandhi was the Prime Minister. She did not remove reservations because it was very beneficial to her. So the politician is looking at that will I get some benefits? Then he'll compromise with ideals. right? But if you are idealistic, there is very little good chance that you might not come into power. So, politics is the art of doing the maximum that is possible at the moment. This is the definition which I read. So I want to reach there, but if I try to go straight there, it will be difficult. So I better go one step. Prepare the ground and then go another step. So that is the whole situation. So everywhere it is like that. The forces are working in a certain direction. And the men in authority and those who want to be in authority or change anything have to go very, very carefully. See, I will not go into any further detail except one thing. My students, they come to my house, they can speak freely. I take my classes at home. Full of complaints about the school, the running, etc., 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 etc. And not even one. I said, all that has no value for me. You write down your complaints, and on the other side, you write down the suggestions. What can be done? And then this morning I told them, you see, coming and criticizing to me has no use. All of you sit together, find out what is wrong, which you all agree upon, find out what are the suggestions, and go to Manoj Dava. Don't go individually, you will get into trouble. But go in a group and say, Manoj Dava, we would like to discuss with you. Then see what happens. Even if he does nothing, an awareness will be created. And that will inevitably lead to a follow-up. So, as always Mother used to say, criticism has no value unless it is accompanied by a solution to that problem. And that's what I told you once. One of our friends wrote a letter to Mother about Nehru's reaction to the Chinese in 1962. At that time, the song was Hindi Chini Bhai Bhai.
Yes.
Right? And then they betrayed us and attacked us. And Nehru made a fool of himself. And naturally, the whole country was criticizing. And somebody from here wrote to Mother and quite a critical letter. My age. So Mother wrote back, put yourself in the place of Nehru and see what you would have done. Do you think you would have done better? That silenced him completely. But then Mother next day, she herself passed a comment, which was a little critical of Nehru. But she also said that the Chinese were more open to her force than the Indians.
Yes. I remember that. I was here.
Huh?
I was here then.
Okay. So I always believe that before criticizing X or Y or Z in your community, put yourself in his place. And then see what you have done. Then I think it will be constructive, it will be helpful, it will be progressive. But ordinarily they have to work not only by half-covered pressure, but by accommodation to powerful forces, or must even bribe and cajole them, or work through and behind them. It cannot be otherwise until the average and the aggregate man become more of an intellectual, moral and spiritual being, and less predominantly the vital and emotional, half-reasoning human animal. So again we are coming back to square one, that at least in the ashram, we openly state that this is the purpose for which we have come. In the outside world, they don't speak of moving up to a higher level. They somehow make a compromise. And there it is the play of forces that is going on all the time. Here, if you take the right attitude, as the mother said, don't complain. Everything that you are seeing might be wrong. But don't complain. If you can do something, do. Otherwise, shut up. It is very important, because if you want the community to continue, criticism creates a very negative atmosphere. Criticism where absolutely necessary with a solution, and not in public but to the people concerned. So, until man becomes more of an intellectual, moral, and spiritual being, and less predominantly the vital and emotional, half reasoning human animal. But Narendra Modi can't expect that. But Manojda can expect that from us. And we can expect it from him also. Right? So the unrealized international idea will have to, for some time at least, to work by this secondary method. And through such accommodations with the realized forces of nationalism and imperialism. So you see today, the Chinese president or prime minister, he has been put for life. He becomes a dictator. He is going to meet the North Korean before he meets Trump. So evidently they will come to some kind of agreement among themselves. And then he will meet Trump and Trump has taken a somewhat strong position. And now Russia and China on one side, China openly and Russia more subtly. America has expelled 87 or 90 Russian diplomats, and in Seattle they have closed their embassy. Right. So again the Cold War has started in a certain sense. All a play of forces. So I wanted to read this paragraph because this is true not only of international politics and national politics, this is true of all collective life. Where it is very small, it doesn't matter, but otherwise, a size of 1,000 or 1,000, it is forces that work. So now when you want to have world unity, you have to bring out or create an atmosphere where those forces of world unity will be stronger than the forces of competition and right. And that is very much easier in certain areas, and it is more or less succeeding. That is in the areas of health, in the areas of ecology, because that hurts everybody. But in the areas of politics and economics, Mother said, most resistant. It will be extremely difficult because economically those who are powerful want to dominate, and politically also those who are powerful want to dominate by creating alliance. Now they can't conquer, that age is over. But by other methods, all kinds of pressures are there, right? And to steer clear of all that and find your own way demands a lot of sharp acumen. In any case, I'll now move to the next paragraph, at least to introduce it. As of now, it seems that if world unity has to come about, it will come about much more by political and administrative, external means, then by profound inner growth of oneness. I don't think mankind has reached that state of maturity where we are prepared to move inwardly towards a deeper understanding, a more common goal, etc., etc. As I said, in two fields definitely it is happening, health and ecology. But in economics and politics it is not happening yet. Now, if you create an organization, an administrative, political, external organization, inevitably one problem will come. Every time you create a system of organization, you are inevitably, it is inbuilt that you will create what is called uniformity. So when a community is governed by goodwill and feeling and all that, we can explain things. But when it is governed by rules and systems, right, you can't have that subjective element. Everybody must follow the same law. Admission to the school, admission to become a teacher, admission to the ashram. Mother would do it on the basis of her wisdom, and we all accepted it. Understand or not understand didn't matter. Today everybody is questioning everything. So you have to make a law. But I put myself in the place of, I got this telephone call from Calcutta and that Bengali gentleman raised this issue with Manoj. Manoj said, I can do it, but then there's no more ashram. The ashram mother gave everybody a chance to grow by himself. Right? And we have still survived. Since Sri Aurobindo has gone and mother has gone almost 50 years. We are still working quite well. So why not leave it to the mother's force? And I can't say that I don't agree with him. I agree. Right? But then there is the other side. And unfortunately there are sometimes men who are not capable and who have... in fact, I must have told you this, that a few weeks back I was on my scooter and I was talking to somebody and
Yes.
a gentleman came and told me, I hear that you teach cycling to people. I said, why? You teach human cycle, human cycle. He's an ashramite who is here for more than 10 years. So that I didn't say anything, nothing to react. So what I'm trying to say is that the moment you create a structure, right, an administrative structure, you are inevitably doing two things: taking away liberty and creating a system of uniformity. That's why the chapter is Problem of Uniformity and Liberty. And the moment you create that uniformity, immediately you are liable to go to court if I feel unjustly treated. You have made a law, you have violated the law, straight away you go to Supreme Court. Supreme Court decides everything by reason. It doesn't bring in any spiritual element. See, the Chief Justice of India, when the Ayodhya problem, which is very soon coming up, because these people want that by December 6th, the temple is built there. I mean, the idea is accepted. So Congress is putting pressure by trying to impeach him. But he has said, for me it is not a religious problem, it is not a problem of faith. It is a land problem. Whether Ayodhya, whether Ram was born there or not, doesn't matter to me. I'm a rational human being. I can't accept that faith in my judgment. Private life, he might be worshipping Ram. But in public life, as a Supreme Court judge, it is a land problem. Do the Hindus have a proof that this land belonged to them and that the Muslims came and broke the Ram temple and built Babri Masjid? It has become a purely land problem. And because the moment he accepts faith and religion, you had it. The Muslims will say, why talak, talak, talak? Why are you banning it? You know that, no? Talak, 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 I can divorce in 5 minutes. Right? Narendra Modi is now removing it because it is against human dignity. Right? But the Muslim conservatives are holding tight to it. The moment you bring in this Ayodhya as a matter of faith and devotion to Ram, the same thing will happen here. Then the problem will be Hindu superiority, Hindu arrogance, and the Muslims. See, there will be a reaction. And we have to solve the problem internally, no? So one has to go very slow. So basically the idea is that when you create a system and the government has no other way of functioning except by creating a system, a little subjectivism they allow, but very little. And if you allow a little more subjectivism, immediately people will go to court. Therefore, liberty is removed and uniformity becomes the structure. And this is exactly the problem that Ashram is facing. When the mother was there, it was all liberty and very subjective handling of. Today, nobody commands that authority that the mother commanded or Sri Aurobindo commanded. You must have either somebody has to come who is like the mother. Not that he thinks that he is like the mother, but we think that he is like the mother. Then it will be acceptable. Or inevitable trend will be not one individual running the show, but might be a group of individuals. All that is in the air, discussion going on. But whether it will succeed or not will depend on the play of forces.
What is the title of
What is
chapter 16 title?
Chapter 16. So we'll do that in some more detail next time, right? The problem of uniformity and liberty. But this is something which you have to understand. That the moment you create a system of organization or a rigid system of organization, you have to have uniformity, and in that process liberty is lost to a great extent. Either you have to create an atmosphere where all the sadhaks are moving toward the higher thing, and even if you don't agree, you say just leave it, it's mother's ashram. At one time, Pranabda took certain positions, but he was told clearly that look, you are not a trustee, either you become a trustee and then you decide, or he quickly withdrew. He said, look, it's not my business. This is mother's ashram, Sri Aurobindo's ashram, they have created it. It is their responsibility. Because we don't believe that they have gone. Physically you might not see them, but they are there. So if this descent is taking place, she must have a purpose. I said, excellent attitude. So I relax completely. Let those who are in charge take the decisions. Because I ultimately trust that mother is doing these things. And sometimes, as Sri Aurobindo says, retrogression is a very important step for progress. Reculer pour mieux sauter. That is in French. Step backwards to jump better.
Even Nolini,
Huh?
Nolini in one of his books said it might be necessary to step down from the ivory tower of the mind to the vital,
Yes.
to take the leap.
He writes, it is pulling down the scaffolding, and there he says, look, forget supramental, overmental, psychic, don't tell lies, don't cheat. I mean, come down to that level and start working on that level, on the vital level. Right? Be honest. See that your accounts are proper. Only on that base and only on that base can you prepare the higher mind, and then afterwards the spiritual and all that. So many people didn't like it at all. How can he say that? Right? So he said it is the hard reality of the situation. The way we are fighting, that is not a sign of spirituality. That was in the 70s.
Yes.
Then he withdrew completely. Anybody went to him for advice about the ashram, refused. Spiritual problems, only the meditation, this is what is happening to me, then he would sit and talk to you.
You knew him well?
Me, very well. Right from the age of 5, he would give me, we would be playing around and he would come out and he'll give me a toffee, or come to my room, he'll give me a rasgulla. So from that time, we have developed a relationship. And then at a much later age, when he became a little old, I organized night duty for him, because to go to the bathroom was difficult. So we had to give him that pot and all that. And I used to spend 8 to 1 or 2, and Shastadhar used to come from 2 to 6. Then after some time Matri came in. Then we managed. Then after that many people came in. Then we had all 2 hours, 1 hour. I knew him very well and he was very, very understanding and kind towards me. Most of my letters used to go through Amritsar to Mother. I have over 150 or 200. But some letters I used to send through Amritsar, Mother used to give it to Dolinita. And Dolinita used to tell me, read it carefully. Very important things that you have to think about. So from that point of view, I am really lucky that absolutely opened my doors to her. Everything, even now there is nobody in the world to whom I can tell everything. You suppress many things from others, all of your lower nature. It doesn't mean that you are manifesting it, but it is there in the nature. That I could tell Mother straight. And I've always told her, absolutely. Mother, this problem. She explained to me very patiently and in detail. And even when you stumble, sometimes a little harsh, but towards the end of the letter, she's appealing to you that you must get over this. See, that's why today somebody asked me, are you a disciple of the Mother? Because you introduce us as devotees and disciples. I said, I'm also wondering. I cannot boast loudly that I am a disciple. And then I fell upon something which the Mother has said. Be very careful before you are saying that you are a disciple. You are trying to be a disciple. Because there are many or some elements of your lower nature which refuse.
That is why I'm very careful to say disciples and devotees.
Yes. A devotee, certainly.
Right.
Disciple, trying to be. Disciple is one who is all the time moved by the mother and Aurobindo. And when I say moved, not only action, but thought, feeling, sentiment, difficult.